Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just hang tight for about a minute longer. We will let people continue to join us and then officially get started at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, welcome everyone. I'm looking very much forward to our little webinar here. But yeah, we're gonna give people a little extra time to get in.
Which is 2 p.m. Eastern time, not Guyana time. So sorry about that, anybody, if there was a confusion on that with the time changeover. I forgot that they were no longer lined up. So hopefully you were able to join us. If you're here, I guess you were able to join us and you got the right time. So thank you for that. Since it is 2 p.m. on the dot there, I will officially get started. But everyone just bear in mind that this webinar is being recorded. So if you do need to step out for any reason or join late, then I will be sending the recording out later this week. So, hi, welcome everyone. My name's Jenna. I'm with Emerging Destinations. We represent cool companies in cool places. And today, up there on your screen, you can also see I'm being joined by Anders Anderson, who is the owner of the Wild Tales in Guyana. So before I formally let him take over, I will just take a quick second to tell you a little bit more about Emerging Destinations and the partners that we have. So Anders, if you wouldn't mind just switching over that slide for me, please. So up there on your screen, you can see that those are all of the companies that Emerging Destinations currently represents, companies and destinations, I should say. Since we are talking about Guyana today, I will start there. So Emerging Destinations is the representation company for the Guyana Tourism Authority in North America to the travel trade. So we're here to help answer any questions that you might have about Guyana, the destination, and then of course we bring on our destination partners such as Anders here to host different webinars to tell you a little bit more about the different and exciting things that you can do in Guyana. Since Guyana is in South America, I will just briefly introduce our South American portfolio. So we also represent La Carolina Island House, which is a 5-star property in the Bocas del Toro, Panama. We have Las Torres Patagonia, which is a lodge located in the southernmost tip of Chile in Patagonia, Cerro del Paine National Park. And we also have River House Lodge, which is a fly fishing lodge and outdoor activity lodge located in Argentina, again in Patagonia. And last but not least, we also represent Enchanted Expeditions, who are a DMC and also own 3 small ship cruises in the Galapagos Islands. So if you have questions about any of those companies that I mentioned or any that you see up there on your screen, my email address is jen@emergingdestinations.com. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any of those or do a one-to-one training with you and your team. A couple more housekeeping items to go over before I officially hand things over to Anders. As I mentioned earlier, this webinar will be recorded, so if you joined late or like I said, you have a call, you can't see the whole thing, don't worry, we will be sending those out, the recording out to everybody later this week. Also keep in mind that all of our Emerging Destinations previously recorded webinars are available on our Emerging Destinations YouTube site and our website as well. So you can go have a peruse through there, catch up on anything that you might have missed. And then last but not least, we will also be doing a Q&A at the end of Anders' presentation. So if you do have questions throughout his presentation, please feel free to type those through using the GoToWebinar control panel, which should be located on the right-hand side of your screen. Type those through as they come up, and then we will be answering as many as possible at the end of today's webinar. Of course, if we can't get to yours for whatever reason, then we will always make sure to answer that in an email follow-up. So I think without further ado, that's all that I need to say for the moment. So I'm very excited for Anders to tell you a little bit more about the niche market that and trips that he's doing in Guyana. So over to you, Anders.
Thank you very much, Jenna, and thank you very much to Emerging Destination of getting the opportunity to have a little webinar. This is super great. Now I got a chance to work with you guys at the Adventure Travel Trade Association. That was such a pleasure. So hopefully much more of that. But for all you guys here, let's just dig straight into it. My name is Anders. I am originally from Denmark. I own the company The Wild Tales here in Guyana, and I've been working in Guyana on and off for 12 years. We specialize in jungle survival courses, expeditions, adventure tours, and TV shows and safety consultancies, and basically everything that you could imagine that got to do with the jungle and the work with indigenous communities, especially here in Guyana. I have myself been working many different places. We're going to get back to that. But before anything else, I wanted to just quickly brush up on how in the world a Dane would end up in Guyana. Um, I was originally educated in insurance and banking, and I actually thought that my life would be somewhere in insurance, account managing, or sitting in offices in Denmark. But at one point, I got an opportunity to travel to Venezuela. And in Venezuela, I got set up in tourism in such a way that we had a plan of building this overland bus that was super like popular about like 15, 20 years ago. And these buses was about to go through like Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, and then around on the Amazon River. And fate would have it that at this point here in Venezuela, Hugo Chavez got declared dead. And I basically ran out of Venezuela and came into Rupununi in Guyana, which later has become the base of my whole operation and the experiences we survived. In Guyana, at this point here, there was certainly tourism, and there was exciting tourism as well. But initially, I came in and wanted to create something of an idea that make Guyana a little bit more available, especially like in the digital world. At this point here, there wasn't too much developed with websites and so on, and a lot of the communities had a great product, but they didn't really have so much of a place to show it. And as this developed, I came across a guy I think I should mention, which is Ian Craddock, that ran a company called Bushmasters UK. Ian is, well, Ian was, because Ian is in 2019, he unfortunately died very suddenly, but Ian created Bushmasters UK about like 20, 25 years ago in Guyana, and is really like the forefather of adventure tourism in Guyana, at least if you ask me. There's probably mixed opinions about it, but Ian was the like guy who invented the jungle survival course. He was a former special forces himself, and Ian was as well the guy who introduced me to expeditions, gave me my first guest, and basically gave me an opportunity with my very weird background in insurance and banking to get into this thing here. And I think Ian, what is really worth mentioning, and why Ian as well really like found Guyana to be something special, was that in Guyana we are in a country that is the size of UK, well, England. 75% of the country is covered by rainforest, and we only have around 750,000 people. This means a lot of unexplored areas. This means an amazing resource and capacity in people living in communities very closely related to the rainforest. Very, very, very strong traditions, still very much alive, and as well a place where you can say to much of an extent that there is no red tape, because I think this is one of the things that probably characterizes Guyana more than anything else. That is that we do not have red tape. We have almost an endless amount of areas to go and visit, explore, together with all these amazing partners we have in communities across Guyana. My professional background from I came to Guyana the first time have been very different than what I imagined it to be, because at one point I left Guyana to go out and explore the world and work different places. And this brought me to great experience, like working as a glacier guide up in Iceland, where we were taking people up volcanoes and going into glaciers. I've been in Tanzania, where we have been diving and building schools with British students, and I spent a short time with the Doctors Without Borders as well, where we were in Tigray under the armed conflict down there, where I was working as a logistician in a hospital. And then as well, it led me into opportunities such as planning some of the longest expeditions that has been done over land in the tropical areas the last 20 years, which among this is Lucy Shepherd. I have been out with someone called Laura Bingham, where they did another world record, the first sea to source of the Essequibo River, the longest river in Guyana, and so on. So just to give you a little bit of a background, adventure tourism can certainly take you to different places and much more than I've ever imagined. And this brings us into this adventure tourism here and the philosophy of adventure tourism. At least this is, of course, my own opinion about adventure tourism, why it caught on to me, and why I feel that Guyana is such a special place to practice something like adventure tourism, and of course, together with all my colleagues from communities and all these lovely people that I'm working with in the interior of Guyana. When you talk about adventure tourism, and you talk about adventure as a personal experience, I think we can talk a little bit about some core values. And these core values, they can be very individual for each person that you're coming across. But I think what probably is for most people when they go into some kind of an adventure experience is that we need to do something that is purposeful. We are being bombarded every day with things that is told to us to be important, whether it's social media, whether it is our parents, friends, our work. Everybody has an opinion about what is purposeful for us. And I think one of the things that really shine through when you go out and give yourself experiences in traveling, but especially in adventure, is that you go out and use yourself for what your body like needs, what your body feel to do, and through that it becomes purposeful for you, whether it is climbing a mountain or whether it is doing an adventure that actually makes a difference for the people who's partaking in it. I think in a Guyana perspective, that you can come and experience some of the most untouched rainforests, accompanied by all these amazing guides and people in Guyana, and support their community tourism while you go on some of the wildest jungle adventures that you could imagine in this world. That is something that definitely leave that all of our participants, when they have been out with us, with a sense of feeling purposeful. I as well think that when we are talking about something as sacred as the rainforest, we know it's being attacked from all sides. It's full of natural resources. People want to plant their crops and they want to extract and they want to do all these things here. But one thing that has kept this dear rainforest alive is to much of an extent the people who rely on it the most, which is indigenous communities, especially in South America, but many other places in Central America, Indonesia, Africa, and so on, where we still have traditional cultures that is based in and around the rainforest, use it as their supermarket, but as well is using their traditions to stay alive in there, because this can be a little bit more than just like going into this or to this area. But I think one of the sentences that really struck me was that for a guest to come and do it the right way, and for me to be working together with communities, as an example in Guyana, is that when we are doing adventure tourism here, we have to practice immersion, but not intrusion. And this is something that can be a little bit like hard for an adventure guest to see, especially before they have tried the experience. But the rainforest is a beautiful place because no matter how you visit the rainforest, you will be immersed by the most magnificent nature you have ever encountered. And your presence there often is led by the fact that local communities is gaining direct cash benefits, jobs are created, souvenirs are bought, and so on. But as well, that the jungle in itself can be hard to intrude on, but it can be very intrusive, as an example, to have mass tourism in a small community. So leaving from an experience in Guyana, one of the most magnificent things I often see in our guests is a feeling that they have been immersed into another world. And in Guyana as well, sending them off with a feeling that they have not been intrusive. They have actually been giving people in the local communities and the rainforest a chance to be purposeful, a chance to exist without having to be cut down or changed into timber and so on. If we go a little bit onwards, there is like this DNA of adventure. And one of the things that we talk probably most about in tourism in general is this like transformational tourism. And I'm going to speak more about it later, but one of the things that our jungle survival courses, expeditions, and so on is giving the most to our guests is probably a sense of transformation. I believe many of our lives, especially when you're living in Europe, North America, and many other places in cities, is that we are living in the comfort of knowing exactly what is happening around us. And in this comfort, I think as well that it can be hard to achieve some kind of transformation, at least a rapid transformation, because we're simply not being pushed. We're simply not being put on the spot to try to learn something new. We are actually working so much in our comfort zone that transformation hardly can happen. And this is where we, in tourism in general, but especially in adventure tourism, is going in and giving these experiences where when people are leaving from something where they have pushed their boundaries, quite naturally there's going to be a sense of transformation, because maybe you have refound yourself in nature. Maybe you have found out that you're much more capable than you ever thought. Maybe you touched that snake, or you helped fish that river monster, or maybe you simply were there and realized that you socially in a group have so much more to give than you go and applaud yourself for in your everyday life. And then as well, in the DNA of adventure, there's a cultural exchange. And this is something that I really like about like when you go in on more extreme experiences together with all my colleagues and with myself. And that is that every person is bringing something to the table on an expedition, as an example. Someone is coming with certain skills, someone is coming with certain perspectives, someone is coming with something else that they bring into the group. But this is a cultural exchange that happens both ways. Because when I'm here with my colleagues who is living in communities, many of them deeply submerged into the rainforest, their perspective is changing as well. And I mean, you can almost say that if you walk down your street outside your home, you don't necessarily notice all the details. You don't notice how magnificent your street is. You don't notice how beautiful something is around. And I think every time that we bring guests into the jungle, the cultural exchange is happening both ways, because we are being constantly reminded about how magnificent the jungle is, as an example. But we as well are being constantly reminded about how important the work is to preserve something like this, even though we hardly could have seen all the other places in the world that people are using as a kind of like running it parallel and adjusting and weighing how special the rainforest is. So I think the cultural exchange is something that is, to some extent, sometimes more than the economical benefit for the communities we work with, is actually giving them a confirmation that what they are living in, what they are protecting, and what they are doing in the rainforest of preserving their traditions, as an example, is of such a tremendous value that you as an individual sometimes can have a hard time comprehending what you're doing here. But definitely something that I think and try to bring into these adventures that we're serving out here. Teaching in the jungle. I've been teaching in the jungle for quite a significant amount of years, and it is amazingly dynamic. Sometimes it can be challenging, and most of all, it's a classroom that I love, because whatever I know, well, normally what I say, whatever I cannot teach you, the jungle will. So what is it actually that we're teaching out here? And I mentioned it a little bit, but our core like things that we teach is really jungle survival courses and bushcraft and jungle expeditions. And these things here are very intertwined. First and foremost, it should be said that you cannot, well, at least from my professional opinion, you shouldn't go into the jungle without bringing people with local knowledge. The local knowledge is deeply tied up to traditional knowledge of being in the forest. I mean, my colleagues, especially, they are moving in the rainforest in a way that it can be very hard for outsiders to do. They are sensing things in the rainforest that we can hardly do. They are doing things with materials and with this traditional knowledge that is all being brought into our courses and our expeditions to make them both safe, but as well to bring them value. So what we're really doing here is that we are, in the same way as we are teaching a lot of modern skills, we are as well bringing in these traditions. And these traditions are not only being taught to our guests, they are actually many places dying in a sense that people don't think they need them anymore. So all our, again, courses and expeditions, they become a place to preserve this cultural heritage that is many places being exchanged with knowing about computers and driving cars and stuff like that. Because here you can actually practice it, you can teach it for your kids if they're coming as guides as well, and you can as well make sure that you are bringing out some knowledge that is in many places disappearing in a very rapid state. Our jungle survival courses has been running now for 25 years. First, they were 20 to 25 years. First, they were running under Ian, and then after Ian's very sudden passing, we brought it onwards, and then we started again in 2020. The jungle survival courses is, and I'm of course a little bit biased here, but I would say probably one of the most intimate encounters one can get of the Amazon rainforest in the world, period. The reason why I'm saying this is that we bring people in on these 13 days courses. Typically, we would be bringing them from Georgetown into this amazing small community in Ibukrama rainforest called Surama Village, which is of the Makushi community of Makushi Nation. And here we teach people for 3 days. And after those 3 days, we give them a machete, bow and arrow, a fishing kit, a fire kit, and a radio. And then we leave them alone for 72 hours. The idea about this thing here, that you can take someone from the street who has never slept in the forest, who has never gutted a fish, who have never lighted a fire, and in 7 days we can teach them enough that we can drop them off for 72 hours to build their own shelter, get their own fire, get their own food, and get their own water. This course here is more than just bringing in a sense of keeping traditions alive and having a great adventure. This is actually the ultimate argument reality, because of course our participants have a natural interest in these things, but is as well touching base on one of the very I would say not in the time, but probably something that most of us have been asking ourselves throughout our life is like, are we capable of surviving in case we have to? Would I be able to make it? And what I can say at least is that if you cannot do 72 hours in the jungle, then you probably would be in a pretty bad place if you actually really have to survive. And then we have our bushcraft courses. This is something new where we are digging much deeper into all the traditions down here, crafting your own bow and arrow and trying to basically make a place where we can even more specialize, keep all these ancient traditions alive. And we have been so lucky, we actually have been getting approved and accredited from a charitable organization in UK and got the world's first bushcraft accredited course happening outside of UK. And then our jungle expeditions is extremely exciting as well. They are going to places where hardly any outsiders have ever visited before. We are doing archaeological expeditions where we go out and we also hear about like ancient archaeological sites that is in mountains and so on, and nobody ever go and visit. And then we go and re-explore them. We go and find new routes, explore river systems, finding waterfalls. But again, every jungle expedition, we're trying to make it into something purposeful. Whether it be a mountain you want to climb, whether it's rediscovering archaeological sites together with communities, or whether we're trying basically to do a route that's never been done before. Jungle expeditions, jungle survival courses, bushcraft courses, again, the whole thing leads down to a purpose of being in the jungle, whether it be exploring or teaching skills you didn't know that you were capable of having or using.
We cannot talk with the rainforest about talking about safety, and I am of the opinion that that this thing here, where we don't have red tapes, we don't have like all these things here. Our guests are using machetes, our guests are using bow and arrow, fishing, and so on, and we are basically exposing them for everything that is a danger in the shape of the tools they're using. The rainforest in itself is an environment where people are perceiving it to be very dangerous. There's going to be snakes, jaguars, and all these different things here. But the reality of it and our teachings brings down to that you are the biggest danger for yourself in the rainforest. So we will teach you how to mitigate the dangers. We will teach you how to use the tools, and we will make you comfortable, because what we believe is that to much of an extent is that if you don't let people touch, they're going to be curious. But if they go out with a curiosity without knowing the dangers of these things, then you are as well going to impose a much bigger danger when you're doing these things. This means as well that our guest is deeply involved in everything from like taking hooks out of the mouth of black piranha. They are touching snakes, helping to catch caimans, and they're doing all these things here with us because we're basically trying to get them to have a sense of reality in the rainforest, not a sense of danger, because danger is not going to leave you anything, especially if it's unfounded. And this is one of the things we use the most of our course and expeditions to do, is to our participants to gradually gain independence until we can, as an example, drop them off for 72 hours alone. And when this is said, this brings me down again to this transformational experience. There's it was very impactful for me to hear about Pine and Gilmore, which basically created something called the experience, a theory about experience economy. And here they're talking about that that you need to not just sell a service, you need to sell this transformation in the guest, but you need to sell as well something that you are bringing back that is more than just that you have seen the Eiffel Tower or you have experienced a waterfall. And here with this Pine and Gilmore experience way of experiencing things is that we remove the red tape, we remove everything, and then you go in as a student into an environment. But when you come out of this environment here and you have transformed as a guest on our courses, you will be more competent in the rainforest than 99.999% of everybody else living out of the tropical belt. So you might get a little brush, you might scratch yourself, you might do all these things, but what you're left with is basically a set of skills that you never knew that you could achieve. We're gonna skip through here, and this is just very quickly. I want to introduce you guys to our team. We have a great team of guides that we've been working with for the last 12 years. Up in the left corner here, there's Lionel with his 2 sons that is as well working as guides. And this is as well telling a story that when we go out on the jungle survival course where we have father and 2 sons, we're actually creating the perfect venue for Lionel to teach his sons as well to all the secrets of the rainforest. Over to the right, we have Vivian and Carlos. And Vivian and Carlos here, they're on top of Macarpan Mountain, where we went for the first time together with them and re-found some archaeological sites which belongs to their village nearby. And down in the corner, we have Lionel and Vivian working together. And here we brought a family of 5, with the youngest being 1.5 years, into the rainforest to be taught survival. This was a very special experience. But for Lionel and Vivian, who together have something among them, I think they have something like 8 kids or something. But this thing about being able to bring in a family to have an experience in rainforest and as well, like as a father themselves, this experience of sharing nature together with parents and their kids was really something that made a big impact for me. And finally, we have Anthony down here in the corner, who's from YY, which is one of the most remote communities left in South America right now, catching a massive Haimara and very proudly showing the size. It's the biggest Haimara I've ever seen. But of course, without these guys here, there will be no the wild tales. They are all our guides, leaders. They protect me, they protect everybody who's visiting, and they make sure that all their knowledge is passed on appropriately. And then we have the partnership with our communities. We work exclusively directly with indigenous communities. We do community tourism. This is something that is always a trial and error. There's a lot of things to learn. There's a lot of things to adjust. Some of our partners we've been working with for 12 years since we came. Other partners are coming in and we have only been working with them for a couple of months. But in my world, in the adventure industry, I think we can say that when it comes to Guyana, if you want to do adventure here, you need to have indigenous people who know the land, the area, the danger, and everything. The communities are our #1 partner and will always be. And with that being said, is that their success is our success as well. And then there is the grassroots work that comes out naturally, the cultural conservation that we have already been speaking about. And then finally, I can say that adventure, Guyana, and this wild rainforest is a match made in heaven. It could not be better. And luckily here in Guyana, everybody speaks English. So even if you don't speak Spanish, you can come and experience this amazing forest and then on first hand actually get to know everybody that you are visiting with. And then Q&A in a second, so I'm gonna put it over again to you, Jenna.
Thank you so much, Anders, and thank you for such a very great and in-depth presentation. This is a program that I've actually wanted to do for a very long time. I actually was working with Ian, who Anders mentioned at the beginning of his presentation, a number of years back. So I've heard about this jungle survival course, and it's always been a great interest of mine. So I love hearing about it and hearing about different ways that you guys have to explore the jungle down there. So now, if anybody does have any questions, now would be the time to please type them through using the webinar GoToWebinar control panel. So type those through, and we will utilize Anders' expertise here while we have him for a few more minutes. Just to start off, Anders, what is the best time of year to do these adventure survival outdoor courses? I know that Guyana has kind of a rainier season and a drier season. So if you just want to speak
Yeah,
maybe just for a second to that?
I mean, for Guyana has a rainy season, that the big rainy season, which runs from around May to start of September, and then we have a small rainy season that runs typically from through December. I would say end November to the start of January would be like the two rainy seasons. Now, because of what we're doing, we do not deter ourselves from going out in rainy season. But the rainforest can be a very different place, different
Right.
experiences, different areas you can reach, and different plants, wildlife, and so on. So if you want to have like a very like wild natural experience, the rainy season is the most beautiful season. If you want to have less mosquitoes and so forth, then dry season is the right place or right time to go. And just it has to be said that Guyana has what's called like a little bit of a seasonal rainforest, meaning that if you come in dry season, as an example, you can be in the rainforest without meeting a single mosquito for like 14 days.
Yeah.
So it is really a tropical destination that can offer you whatever you want. You just have to come in that part of the season for the experiences you want.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I was there, like a month or so ago, and we were 14 days or 12 days, I guess, out in the forest, and I didn't see a single mosquito. So that just gives you an
Yeah,
example. Lots of people think like, oh, you go to Guyana, you're gonna be in the rainforest, you're gonna be bitten up, but that wasn't the case. So just a note on that. Okay,
yeah.
so here's a question that I know that we get quite often. So I'm looking forward to hearing your answer on this one. It is this a trip just for the young, strong, fit, and in shape client?
No, the jungle. Well, there's different variations to this. The jungle survival course is physically not that challenging, I would say. The jungle survival course is much more mentally demanding because there's a lot of teaching, there's a lot of like learning, and then of course the presence of the environment. Then we have our river trips, some of them, which is, I mean, like you will be sitting in boats, you will have to walk up and down like small places and so on, but or banks of the river and so on. But it's extremely comfortable, and you're very well fed and so on. And you'll be sitting in dugout canoes on boats and so on. And then we have over to the very extreme ones where we do the overland expeditions. And the overland expeditions is it can be quite demanding. I mean, like if I to give you an idea, the oldest person I had on a jungle survival course was a 72-year-old lady from Germany. She endured the 72 hours as well, even in rain and without building a shelter and stuff like that. She actually had like a little bit of a rough isolation there. So that's the oldest I've had, and don't mind bringing out people that is older. I have had, I think the oldest guest I ever had in the rainforest in Guyana was 80 something. I can't remember, in the beginning of the 80s, where we were on a river trip as well. There was no issues as well. And the person just needed a hand when they got out of the boat, which was perfectly fine. And then on our trekking expeditions, I've had people up in their 60s, but you are often carrying your own rucksack and so on. So what I would say is that you will, if you ever doubt it, the jungle survival course is a brilliant place to start and see what you physically like are comfortable with doing. And from that point, then you can always see if you want to try something that is more intense, as an example.
Right. So I guess just to follow up on that, another question just came through. Is there a minimum or maximum age requirement? I think the minimum would be more of interest.
I don't bring people out that is younger than 18 unless they come with a guardian. So I do quite
That,
frequently get
okay.
requests, and this is simply just because I need someone to sign a waiver. It's a technical thing. I wouldn't mind running survival courses with younger people and so on like that, but of course there is a legal age of consent, and if you are below
Yeah.
18 and then something happens, then there needs to be a guardian that is signed on your behalf. But when this is said, like I said, the youngest person I ever had in the jungle was 1.5 years old. I think that was too young, but it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So, in terms of equipment, so somebody asked if they'd have to bring like their own Bergen and belt kit, for example, or what do you guys supply on your end?
No, this is a brilliant question. So we have chosen, because it's a teaching experience as well, that we supply rucksacks, hammocks, dry bags, all these things I supply. What you bring is your personal wear, your boots, and then of course many people come with a lot of equipment they want to test. I've had people bring in
Right.
their own machines and knives and so on. But the idea is that you are not going to go out and spend a fortune in equipment. You just have your personal wear that you can use in summertime or wherever you want to go next time. And then we give you all this specialized equipment, so we know as well you have the best equipment.
Perfect. So we'll answer a couple more questions here. I think that's all that we have left anyways. So let's see if we can get to them before any more are added. So you talked a lot about the custom tours that you have, for example, that are kind of already set in stone. Do you do custom tours on top of that? If people like one element of one tour, one element of another, is there a way that you can kind of create a custom group for people on request?
Yeah, as an example, like I mean, like right now we have heard like stories about a cave that has cave paintings that has never been visited by outsiders. So as an example there, I'm offering this as a private trip, and then you can come and join for like a sensational find in the archaeological world. But otherwise, you can always book in all our trips. But I basically have like a whole pile of trips that I'm just waiting for people to get in touch, and then I can give them a never done before trip. So my mind is always
Awesome.
running in twisted ideas and so on, but we can customize every single trip. What we do find though is sometimes like the prices, of course, get much higher, but it really comes down to what type of trip we're doing. Some trips are cheaper to do as private trips, and others get more expensive clearly. But we can do all of them as private, and then all the ones that we don't publicize.
Okay, perfect. And then another question here. So we'll try to wrap it up after this one, maybe one more. This might take a second because it's kind of a multi-layered question. But just talking about a bit more of like the medical emergency procedure during the jungle survival course. So in case somebody does need to get to a hospital, or there's an accident, or is there a sat phone on hand, things like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's we run with like a multi-layered system, but actually we've been so fortunate that now we're getting so much strong connections that we're actually getting like phone signals certain places in the rainforest. In the middle of the rainforest, I can be standing and looking at an anaconda, and then I can receive a WhatsApp message. So we have circle things, and while in Guyana you don't need to travel very far when you are certain places before you are in the most secluded piece of jungle that you could ever imagine. So as an example, the Bora River, where we're working, while you would feel like you are in the middle of nothing, we can actually get you out in a couple of hours and then get you into hospital. And well, it varies depending on the season and so on. But Surama has an airstrip right in the village. Then we have Latham Hospital. Then we have Boa Vista Hospital that we can always reach over land, meaning that our evacuation time is actually quite good. And of course, on top of that, I'm an emergency medical technician, so I'm as well trained to handle these situations and get people out. I luckily never had to evacuate a guest, but we have had like people in communities that suddenly fell ill where we had to evacuate them. And because it's communities as well, this is such an amazing, well, it's always under tragic circumstances, but when a community have to act and take care of someone, they all come together and help, and you basically utilize the whole place, right? So that's super exciting.
That's okay. So I think we have just the last question, which is actually just for me. I think you touched on it before, but just to clarify for everyone, what is the best way to book or inquire? Obviously, people know they can get a hold of me, and I can always connect them with you. But just so that everyone knows, the best way
Well,
if they do have.
if you're looking right now at the screen, there is of course all my handles and so on, but there is as well a QR code in the site that goes into my link tree where you can find like all our emails and websites and social media and so on. But otherwise it's info@thewildtales.com. And there you're gonna get directly in contact with me when I'm not in the rainforest, and then I'm gonna be ready to help you come to Guyana and have an incredible experience in the rainforest.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. Like I mentioned earlier, I finally got down there for the first time since I've been working with Guyana, which started in 2019. So it was a long time coming, and it was nothing short of amazing. And I'm already looking forward to my next trip back. Hopefully, going to be doing one with Anders as well. So stay tuned for
This is
more
gonna be
information
you're
on
gonna
that.
be going on a jungle survival course, so the next time you can tell like anyone who's asking that you have really been in the jungle and really see how it is.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. You have no idea. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you, Anders, for taking time out of your
Thank you,
day.
guys.
And as I mentioned, I will be sending the recording out to everyone later this week. So, thank you, and have a fantastic Wednesday.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Nice meeting you.